All right, again, one of the assignments that you've been asked to do for Chapter 4 was this rock, paper, scissors. And I just wanted to mention a few things. First of all, and I think you know this already, but just in case you don't, I've gone over several of these programs with you. I'm going to continue to do that. If you don't think that's helpful, then just tune me out. I mean, I've gotten to the point where that really doesn't bother me. All right? But I think some people are getting something out of it. Okay? So, the other thing on that is, let's say that John looks at this and he says, you know, I understand what he's doing, but I wouldn't have built it that way. Then he should go back and build it the way he wants it built. That's totally fine. Again, not only am I not mad, I'm happy when you do that. You know, you're taking the initiative to do something on your own. That's great. All right, a couple things as we get started if you look at this. First of all, and I think I mentioned it before, this I just grabbed a picture off the internet from Google Images for a rock, for a paper, and for a scissors. Does that make sense? But all three of these are actually buttons. All right? And if I go over to rock here, you'll notice that if I come down to the properties, I'm going to find out if I go far enough, I don't know where it is. There it is. Image. It says that I'm using an image. All right? So if I remove that, you know, I just have a big button there. Does that make sense to everyone? I don't want to remove it because the chances of me removing it and then getting it back to look the way I've got it to look now aren't that great. All right. So a couple things. First of all, this is the way I did it, like I said, and I'm not saying this is the way you look at it, but I look at it is there are two sets here. There's two sets of text boxes. There's this set, and there's this set. Does that make sense to everyone when I say there's two sets? The reason I'm telling you that is when I click the clear button, I want everything in these three to clear. I don't want these to clear. I'm just clearing out so I can play another game. All right. On the other hand, I've got a thing that says reset all. When I click that, I want these to clear and I want those to clear. Does that make sense? All right. The other thing I want to have happen, and this goes back to something that Christian asked yesterday, and that is when I click this reset all, not only do I want these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different text boxes to clear, but I want the values that are in there, user wins, computer wins, and ties, I want those to be reset to 0. Does that make sense? All right, so the way that I did that, and again, there's plenty of ways of doing it, but I said when you click clear, I called a routine that's called clear all upper text boxes. I don't know where that is in here, but it's in here something. There it is. And it just said the user's choice, you've got the picture in front of you. All right, the computer choice and the winner, you know, etc. So, and then the lower ones are these. That's the wins. All right. So if you click the clear button, it just does the top one. If you click the reset all, it does the top one, the bottom one, and it clears the counters. Again, when we get into Chapter 8, I'm going to expect that you're going to be writing routines to do everything. So I'm showing you that right now as far as what I did. All right? Are there any questions on the clear button or the reset all button? Any questions on those? All right. The exit button, I mean, I can click it. You sure as heck have seen it before because it's the exact same thing we've been using. So I don't think it really pays anymore to talk about that. The rules, all the rules does is it calls a routine called game instructions. And what game instructions does is it just writes this big string that's got all of the rules in it. Notice, boom, 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 boom. And then it prints it out in the message box. So if I run this, there it is. That's the game instructions. There are plenty of ways this could be done, but I just did it that way. All right? So again, when this comes up, I'm going to play a couple games just so you see this. So I'm just going to click 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. They've each got a value in there. All right. So what I'm telling you is when I click this button right here, clear, this should clear, this should clear, this should clear, but all of these values should remain. All right. So again, when I click clear, and you notice that's what happens. All right. And if I come in there and play a couple more games, now when I click the reset all button, this should clear, this should clear, this should clear. So should this and this and this. So 7 different text boxes should clear. Plus the accumulators that are holding the actual numeric values for these should be cleared. So I click reset all, boom. Now you may or may not notice this, all right, but when you look in here, I don't have anything where when I'm doing my clear routines, I'm doing a focus, because the focus is which button I press. All right. So when you look at this, if I, oops, I don't want to run it anymore, so we stop the run. So if I come back in here and I click, I'm going to show you all 3 of these buttons. But if I click this button right here, which is rock, notice what it does. It says, okay, the user chose rock. I equate the number 1 with rock. I equate the number 2 with papers. I equate the number 3 with scissors. Didn't have to do it that way, but that's the way I did it. And as you probably guess, so there's rock. If I can show you paper too, so paper 2, and then make computer choice, and then scissors 3 and make computer choice. Again, that's just the way that I did it. So let's look at make computer choice. It's the longest routine in here. This, if you don't know it already, that's how you basically set up to create a random number. All right, you have to basically create something that's part of the random class. And then this physically creates a random number, okay? And that random number is, you go 1, 4, what does that mean? It starts with 1 and goes up until, but not including 4. So and there's different ways that you can create a random number in C#. This will create either a 1 or a 2 or a 3. And you'll notice if you look that I don't call these routines, I don't call this here or here or here until I've made my choice. I don't want to set it up so I can cheat. I don't want it to show the computer's value first. Well, then I can win. I could win every game like that, and that wouldn't really make it a game then. All right? So you come in here, and I say, okay, let's set the user's choice because we've got that now. Okay? And then if it was a 1, the computer chose rock. A 2, they chose paper. A 3, they chose scissors. I just defaulted it to rock. I didn't even need this because it shouldn't happen, but it never hurts to be sure. All right? Then I set up all that, and then I had to determine the winner. Okay? Does this make sense if you look right here? All it says is, if I chose a 1 and the computer chose a 1, or if I chose a 2 and the computer chose a 2, or if I chose a 3 and the computer chose a 3, we tied. That's all that says. All right? Then I figured out how could the user win. The user could win if they got rock and the computer chose scissors, or they got paper and the computer chose rock, or they got scissors and the computer chose paper. So if that was the case, so if it was a tie, I said tie game and added 1 to ties. If the user won, I said the winner was user and I added 1 to user wins. Otherwise, I just reversed what we had here. So these tests are exactly the same, but here we've got user then computer, here we've got computer then user. That is every possibility, all right, as far as I know. And if these happen, the computer won. So we add 1 to computer wins. Then I just fill up all the different boxes. Does that make sense? I mean, is what I'm asking you to do make sense? All right. Now, that isn't exactly probably what you had in mind when you talked about programming games, but really that's what we are doing here. All right. We could, I don't think it'll ever happen, at least while I'm here, but we could create a separate course on game programming. All right. This really, even though it's got pictures in it, this is really a textual game. If we have time by the end of the semester, I'd like to have us build a textual game together, just literally as a class. We'll make up our own rules, etc., because I think that's kind of a cool thing to do. Plus, by that time, we'll have gone through classes, and you'll see how you can take code and make things a little bit easier. So I'm hoping that we're going to be able to do that. But basically what I've done is I've gone through the whole program with you. Again, we don't need any of this stuff. You can see everything that's gray in there is not needed. So I need the system, but I don't need this, or this, or this, or this, or this, or this, or this. I left them in there. It doesn't matter whether you leave them in there or you don't leave them in there. All right? I put the comment in from the book. That already had me down to line 40. These are the variables I used. The user choice string, which is going to be the word rock, or the word paper, or the word scissors. The user choice, which is going to be a 1, 2, or 3. Then the same thing for the computer. The other stuff that's in here should make sense. User wins, computer wins, and ties. All those variables I declared outside of any method. All right? Meaning they're all global, right? I didn't feel like passing a lot of stuff around in here. So, this you may or may not be aware of. All right? And that is, if you look up on the screen, please, because I don't think I've ever said this before, so unless you think you know it, all right, please look. If you double-click on the form, if you double-click on it, it brings up the form's load event. And the load event is what runs when that form gets loaded into the computer's memory. Usually, if you want something to happen right as something begins, that's where you put it. There are other routines that you can put it in that actually run before that. All right, for instance, I think there's an activate or an activated that even runs before the load event. All right, so you may or may not have noticed when I ran that before, but what I said was when you start the game, have the instructions come up first. Didn't have to do that, but I did it anyway. And those instructions, I already showed you that. I just built a big string that basically took all of the stuff that you saw in the comments here and put it into a string. That's really all I did. And then I output it. All right. Then, I don't know why that's still saying calculate, because that's the rules. So game instructions. I've changed it, but it keeps changing back. I don't know why. All right. Clear, as I already mentioned to you, the clear all upper text boxes will clear these three. The reset all, as I said before, will do three things. It'll clear these three text boxes. It'll clear these three text boxes. And the actual number values, the accumulators. Does everybody understand? I'm asking you this question. If you look on the screen, does everybody understand? Let's say I play 3 games, and I get 1 user win, 1 computer win, and 1 tie. So those text boxes say 1, 1, 1. Those are not the numbers. Those are strings, and all those strings do is they hold the actual accumulator's value. Does that make sense to everybody? All right. Anything that you ever enter in, you're entering in as a string. All right. All right. The exit, again, what we've been doing, the clear upper ones, as I mentioned to you, these 3 lines right here, those 3 lines, all they're doing is clearing those 3 text boxes right there, right here. All right. Then the next ones say first clear those 3 text boxes. All right. Oh, I'm sorry. This is the lower one. So this one says clear these 3 text boxes here. All right. Then I clear the counters. What is that? It's up at the top of the screen. That's the number of times the user won. That's the number of times the computer won. That's the number of ties you had. All right? I already mentioned these, but I'm going to just say them one more time. This is if you click that button that looks like the rock, the fist, and it sets the user's choice to rock, the user choice string to rock, and the user choice to 1, and it calls make computer choice. Here, that's paper. It sets the user choice string to paper, the user choice number to 2, and it calls make computer choice. And finally, scissors, which sets the user choice string to scissors, the user choice to 3, and it calls make computer choice. Make computer choice, that is going to choose for the computer. So the lines of code that I have here in lines, 193 and 194, that's going to pick a random number between 1 and 3. And then I would say, if you pick a 1, there's the computer choice string, it's rock. Otherwise, it's paper. Otherwise, it's scissors. And the default is rock. And I mean, did I have to do it this way? No. This is the way I did it. All right. This, now I can fill up the computer's choice and the user's choice. So these two lines you see here in lines 217 and 218, that's going to fill out these two things right here. No, here. The user choice and the computer choice. Then to determine winner, it's just running those rules that I showed you above. Now I know I did that fast. What I'm asking you is the way that I set the program up, does that make sense? All right. Next week, we're going to go over, on Thursday and Friday, we're going to go over arrays. Those of you who were in the class last semester, you've been introduced to arrays. C# arrays are different than JavaScript arrays were. What we're going to do, the first thing we're going to do, rather than going into Chapter 6, we're going to create a couple programs together. One program is, you know that daily temperature thing we did yesterday? We're going to go back and redo it, but we're going to redo it, and we're going to redo it using arrays. All right, so you can see how you can navigate or gravitate from using a non-array structure to using an array structure. All right. Any questions on this? Again, the rest of the period is yours. I've asked Tony if he'd come in here around 9:30 to 10. When he doesn't oversleep, he comes in here. If you have questions, feel free to ask Tony too. I'm here for questions. I have no problem trying to answer as many questions as I can answer. But, he's just been sitting there typically for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. He'd rather be helping you do something. All right. So again, last time, no class Monday. It's Martin Luther King Day. On Tuesday, we will have the written test for Chapter 5, all right, which is looping. The rest of the period will be lab. Wednesday of next week will be your second hands-on test for Chapters 3 through 5. Thursday and Friday, we'll go over arrays. On Thursday, we're going to build 2 programs. We may not do anything else. Then on Friday, we're going to go through the chapter. You're going to get at least 2 full days of lab time the following week, if not more. Any questions on anything that I've gone over? I did not grade the test for yesterday. I believe that now everyone has taken them. I'll have to check. All right, but I'm going to grade them now and then pass them back. All right. We had 4 missing. We now have 3 missing. But so I don't know if you want to take the test or if you're ready to take it today for Chapter 4, or in 10 minutes if you're ready to take it for Chapter 4. You want to look at your stuff. But since there's 3 people who are not here today, all right, I will not give those back. But if I have time, I'll get them both graded, and not only will I get them both graded, I'll have them in the grade book. This afternoon, I should only be lecturing in my afternoon class for about an hour. If everything works the way I'd like it to work, that doesn't usually happen, but if it does, I'll have everything graded by the end of the day. All right? My wife has already told me, Monday is MLK Day. And I said, yeah. She said, I'm not letting you turn on your computer. I may not even let you turn on your phone. She said, because then I lose you for 3 or 4 hours. She said, you are taking a day off whether you want to or not. All right? So if there are no other questions, then the rest of the period is yours.